o'clock. Let's call to order this our 16th Board of Supervisors meeting. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First on our agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have any comments on the board?
I'd like to know.
No, go for it.
One of the consent agenda items is letting the library have the drop off box again for wherever that is. I think that's great. I think it's helpful and everybody should get out and vote. That's it.
I agree. And the only thing I wanted to add was I'm no lawyer, but it still says library and information center. I know we officially changed it a couple years ago. It's probably just been a recycled agreement. I don't know if it needs to be cleaned up, if it matters at all. I don't care, but maybe someone should just fix that in the future. That's all.
Will do.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll second.
Is there any public comment? In favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, moving on to forward motions, presentations, resolutions, historical commission appointment.
Yes, you have a request from the Historic Commission to appoint Marie Gordon. And Marie, you're here.
Board comment? Marie, thank you for volunteering.
You're welcome.
It's a good career.
I'll make a motion to nominate Marie to the historical commission.
Second. Any public comment? All in favor of approving Marie Gordon to the historic commission, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the resolution regarding sewer expenditures.
Yeah, give you a little background. So EMA planned for, budgeted a few expenses. We'd like to get going on them. The intention is to use the borrowed money to do these things. These are all things that we talked about, Alex, at the EMA, and they have long lead times. So the sense is we'd like to get going on them. Even if we just place in the PO to purchase the generator, it could have a 4-month lead time. And we don't want to do that unless we can start paying some invoices. So the plan would be that if we needed to, we would front the money from Fund 63 and then reimburse it when the borrowed monies are received.
And we have sufficient working capital in the fund balance. Shouldn't be an issue.
Yes, for some, particularly because of the scale of these aren't, we're not funding all the project, we're funding some of the preliminary engineering. And the reality is I expect that the money will be received before the invoices.
Any other or any board comment?
Yeah, one thing that came up, I was at some meeting and it came up, is we historically funded NI through borrowing. I think it's really an expense and we should pay for it as an expense. I don't think we should change how much we spend on it or anything. We should use borrowing only for long-term assets, not for operational activities.
It's a bit of a judgment call though, right?
No, it's an activity. There's no long-term.
So it is considered, it's a capital repair and it is intended to exceed the, it's not intended as short fix. It's not an operational component. It's intended to be a permanent fix aligned to repaving the road. So whether you wanted to do it either way, you would take it out. My logic on the staff side is that we do poorly with small amounts of projects metered out year over year over year over year. They're difficult. We do better with one large sum, one big scope, and one strong effort from the contractor. So what this allows us to do is issue a proposal, identify areas, and have one project that is 9-10 months long and generates $100,000 worth of intervention sort of thing. So, but it could go either way. If you wanted it to be operational, we just switch it to operational.
It just makes no sense to me. A long term is a durable asset. Like, you can go touch a generator, you can go touch a truck, you can't touch an I.
Well, you can touch a pipe, and that's what we're doing, we're fixing pipes. The thing that is the fix in the I is a physical intervention, it's not a concept, it's not a program to get people to have less I. It's a physical intervention on the pipe is underground, but it is physical. And I'm not arguing, Michael, it's either way, whatever one you want is the one that we're gonna do. I will say this is easier on me easier on us, and I think more effective for you to do it this way than to, this represents 5 years of I. It's more effective to do it this way than the $15,000-$20,000 a year sort of thing.
Again, I'm not saying we should change the amount at all. I'm just saying it should be funded as an expense, not as capital.
Okay, so all for you to decide, whichever, we'll do either one. Like Alex said, hey, that's not unreasonable if you decide to do it that way.
I mean, these are capital assets, right? Having a network of pipes that forms a sewer system, like the force main replacement for Win was a $3.8 million replacement for that pipe. I mean,
Right,
that's
that I get that's a capital thing, right? But repair of a truck is a capital thing, the repair to it is a expense.
Yeah, there's a distinction of, capital repair, it's analogous to your, to when you do a capital repair, like, PennDOT lets you use liquid fuels money to pave a road. Because they consider that a capital repair. They don't let you use liquid fuels to do incidental, repairs to roads that don't have that duration. I think it's just to pick one, we're gonna do whatever one you tell us. Clearly, my bias is to maintain it in its current form, because I think we're gonna be easier for us to deliver you a better product.
That I don't understand, because if we're gonna spend $50,000 a year, we'll spend $50,000 a year, whether it's expense or capital. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, very good, you could do it that way, you could just stop, let the money accumulate, and 5 years from now, do a $135,000 intervention. But if you wanna get going now, this would be the way to do it.
But you were mentioning the fact that we could have an expense of millions.
Yeah, that's really the concern, is these are lumpy expenses that we have, and the I&I program is particularly replacing long stretches of pipe, stuff that's built in the 70s and leaks all the time. It's better to come up with a plan, hey, this is the biggest priority, we need to replace these large stretches of pipe. Sell bonds, fund it, do it, and then pay off the bonds over time, versus waiting until you have enough money and then doing the program. Meanwhile, the pipe is leaking that entire time. That's the benefit of doing it with bond issues.
But I understand what Michael's. Or any input.
It's like,
I assume so, whatever's easiest for us, but I understand. Is there any other public comment? Okay, so then we're acting on the resolution to,
yeah, joint resolution is resolution 2026-6 to authorize the authorize Fund 63 to fund certain expenditures for sewer projects.
So moved.
I'll second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let's have it. Okay, moving on to the building design review.
Martin's here. Martin has a little presentation for you. I think he'll take you through the presentation. We've reviewed it at the staff level. And then the little subset that you created of supervisors to look at it at like a working group level. Now it's before you as one of those little check-in points that we promised.
Don, it might be best if because the laser won't show on the screen, so I'm gonna, do you mind if I approach?
Oh, why would I mind? Of course not.
Approaching bench.
So formal. I felt very good. Got a special sticker.
So, yeah, I'm wearing a badge now, so such as it is. So, yeah, great. So happy to be back again. You recall that you engaged us to proceed with our study in the development of the site I don't worry myself over there. For a new building for the police and the municipal operations. So we are in the process and we really like to keep you up to speed as we develop it. Let you see under the hood as to where we're headed. Course correct if you think that we're not headed in the right direction in any way before we get so far along and, come in here and show you something that's fully flushed out and you go, wait a minute. So that was part of, I think, transparency was one of the things you wanted all along. So if you look at the left-hand side, well, let's start out. We're right here in this room in the existing building, hilltop, and then new building. So as we predicted in the study, a new bank barn style, and by that means 1 story on an upper level, 2 stories on the downhill side, tucks really nicely into that. That allows us to do some things, which is relocate the playground. And if that's something you want to invest in further, recall that part of our study now is to look at this building, whether you keep it for community use or raise it. So that's going to happen after we get this a little bit further. But we've already showed a relocation and how that could start to engage with the old kind of historic walls that you have, but that still reconnect down to the trails. Okay. So we would envision this becomes the primary trail access from this side as opposed to the opposite, but you still would maintain it from this side. So if somebody parked here, it's kind of, it works and as maybe the site's even more popular. So just a little bit of work to the upper level parking lot. And then what we want to do is we want to have a limited access drive that gets down to where the police are and also a limited access drive on a Newtown Road and off a Newtown Road. Super efficient. We feel good that PennDOT will approve that because of its limited access, and that it's really a safety feature for kind of everybody. So that's a good thing. And we're a little bit gestural on roof lines and so on and so forth there. So 58 spaces, 26 behind the building, plus you can see where this goes up into the building. That's 3 garage bays that allow for sally port and other police undercover use. Our hope, if you can see the dash line that's here, is to then have a covered canopy, likely with solar on top, that basically protects the most active police cars so they can be undercover when they're getting in and out and, snow event or a rain event. It's kind of the best practices to do that. And part of our thoughts there are to really set the building up and everything that EV charging is already sort of wired into the building, if you will. So that would work if you ever kind of go full electric as an evolution happens. So really remarkably straightforward. So instead of a duo, you sort of end up with a triumvirate unless you decide to remove the building that we're in. Okay. So then capitalizing on, and we're starting a lower level, the work we did in the study last fall worked again more closely with the police about, what would be a super efficient police station. So flip this in your head. The downhill side is up and Beaumont is down. Just as a convention, looking at kind of how you access the building on the upper level. So starting on the right, here's the 3 garage bays. They report directly into a secure holding area, which is kind of best practices. Back in that same corner, and really what we do is because we're a bank barn, like there's no windows on 2.5 sides, and then there's windows. All the things that don't want windows are kind of tucked back in the building as logic would dictate. And then the things that would like a little bit more daylight are pushed to the front, and that's, patrol operations and executive office, officer space, and so on and so forth. So at any rate, beyond the processing and holding areas, evidence storage, and other really back of the house operations, there's a stair that gets you out from above, which we'll show you later. A direct police patrol from the gear room. Familiar with so the police walk around, they have a lot of stuff now, that they carry. So we really, as a best practice, try to have a big gear room with just big open, like think of cubbies on a grand scale, but then all the chargers integrated. So for everything that needs power, it's right there. They don't have to lug that stuff all the way through, and they can drop it off on the way in, take it on the way out. Police chief, deputy chief, detective sergeant, traffic safety. There's like 1 or 2 sort of future spaces that are included. You asked us to make sure that we allowed for growth, and we've done that on both levels. Then at the front, sergeants and detectives. Across the back, a fitness area. Basically, we're looking at having unisex locker spaces with then individual shower changing toilet rooms, so we don't have to guess how many women's locker rooms we need or how many men's. And that's kind of a sort of a best practice as moving forward. patrol area in the middle squad room, which is just, people come back and do the reports. Sometimes you do some briefings, and people, on shift changes and kind of do that kind of thing. On the far left, what you'll see is this little ladder looking thing is a stair coming from above. So if you wanted to visit the police and park out front, you would be able to come in the upper level and go right down to a secure police lobby. So that cream colored area is secure. And then there's police reception, so a window onto that. There's an interview room, where you can have someone who's maybe making a report. Call that the soft interview room. Back in here, we have the hard interview room. That's if you want to find yourself in that room, if you're paying attention, something went wrong if you end up back here. So at any rate, and the police can get in from the police side, and you can let somebody to the other side. So the whole idea is just have everything be super secure, but not feel hardened. Just logic is what we really try to do. Then there's a training room that also can be accessed directly from the police for their use. But you can have community events. You can welcome in for educational purposes. It could be another cooperating police force for effort comes over. You're doing some sort of joint training. So we have all that, and those folks could come in through the lobby and the back without having to go through the secure blue area here, but you can access it. The X here is an elevator, because we're going to be fully accessible. So if you came into the front and you wanted to get down there, you have an accessible way to get down without going around the outside. And if you're moving things inside the building, it's just the best practice. Having this stair also connected to the police from above allows, if there's some kind of incident up in the admin area, it would allow the police to kind of just appear in the admin, and they wouldn't be able to maybe see you coming. Hopefully we never get to a point where that would be a thing that you need, but it's a good thing to have. It's also, in the event, it's somebody can evacuate if something's going on upstairs, they can get down and sort of be out of harm's way. So very, very straightforward. We did have some detailed conversations. I don't know if you want to share anything, but it felt like it met the needs. We did tweak it from our original plan. So this is an evolution and a half of input that we've gotten from your professionals.
Except for Mike, the wellness room, we already have a provision in the CBA for a stipend for gym memberships, correct?
Correct.
Where do we see that going? If you're proposing a wellness room.
It's up to the board. I mean, some guys I think would probably exchange the agreement for having this. I think there's a couple different possibilities, whether somebody else buying the equipment. I don't know. I think we're kind of preliminary on what you guys would like to do or where it's headed. We can certainly negotiate with the.
And Martin, that's a
the
furniture
officers.
solution, right? Which means that the decision that the binding part of that is years down the road.
Yeah, if you decided you did not want to have that in building, that space could be repurposed and it could either be left as it is and be repurposed, or it can be divided up and be just kind of a little additional float. It's not.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking about now.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up, because if it is something that the police want,
Correct.
then maybe that's something we could discuss with them, because there is a union agreement in place that we need to revisit if that's what they want to do.
Correct.
That way there's no windfall or anything.
Martin, could you break out just a rough order of magnitude cost for like the furniture for like a small gym like that, so that we at least see line item what it would cost, something like that?
Down the road? Yes, yeah.
Doesn't have to be right this second, but yeah.
Yep. Be glad to do that.
Sure.
We do find often those are populated with donations from around the gently used good stuff, more so than ownership seems to be the model, but either way we can do that. That is fine.
That room size, do you have a general idea?
That is probably about 16 by 20. Roughly, so. A little more than half of this room would be my gauge, just for reference. Okay. All right, that's great. I can always come back and we'll go upstairs for a minute. So then the upstairs, you'll notice, I just want to highlight right away. If you remember from the study, the administrative space is not as big, so it doesn't stack. So what you're seeing here is roof of police below, but that's actually from a massing standpoint, it's kind of a nice offset, because it breaks down the scale of the building, makes it a little bit less block. So this time I want to start from the far left. And again, sort of unlike exactly what we have here for like a modern community meeting room for admin, you want to have guests to be able to come in to a lobby. That it could be at night and they could call the police from a secure vestibule, if they came, which is what we have here. But then once in, we want to be able to get bathrooms, get to community space in hand. And with the minimum amount of secure locking and chasing, which doors are open, which is right here, be able to completely secure off all of the staff operations. So if you do find that you get community use at night and you don't want to have to staff it, you can basically, code it in. People got access, you know who it is. It can automatically timer lock and you just leave the building and you don't have to worry about staffing because people can only get the public area. That's very, very commonly done. And it's just a community asset. But nonetheless, even during the day, you want people to come to the building and not be able to just meander right in. This serves that purpose all the time. So we have here is a bit of a porch, covered entrance, not too unlike what you already have, into an airlock vestibule, into a lobby. When you stand here, you can see the access to the public meeting room there, and you can see the reception there. So it's a really straightforward kind of organization. We have our stair that starts down to get you to the lower level I just described, and then the X marks the spot as well for the elevator. And then there's 4 individual unisex type toilet spaces that are all subs, so no kind of bigger gang. You don't need stalls. Each bathroom's got its own. It can be used, which again is we think of best practice. So as you would walk further plan north, at the end of that space, looking out over the hill is a community conference room. We find that you get a lot of kind of different use for that. Developers come in, you want to meet someone, you can just book that conference room. People can come out and meet them. And again, you don't have to have people always moving through the entire operation. Or it might be a small board that wants to meet or an association who would like to borrow it, however you choose to do it. Then we have to the right of that, the much larger area, public meeting room. I think I've probably talked about this. We try to design the front, the dais, if you will, to be a ballistic safe refuge in the event of the worst. People can drop down. Unlike this room, we have the ability to leave from behind the back of the room to get in again, to then go right into an executive conference room. So if you do executive session, instead of booting everybody, I don't know how you do that here. Do you keep people out? Yeah. So in this case, everybody can stay comfortable where they are and you can leave and come back. And so on and so forth. And we just find that that's, again, one of those things that is best practice, is very useful, and also gives you that safe way to get out in the event that there's some sort of problem that would bring that to arise. We do show it as slightly raised. That's a picket. I can't remember, Don or John, if we did talk about that. Slightly raised, which usually is just mainly helps create a slightly bigger room for people to see better than when you're looking through everybody's back of everybody's head. So you'll see there's just 2 steps up and a little ramp to get up to that. The key feature of that, you see the little tick marks all the top. I mean, our vision of that is that from that boardroom, you would have a beautiful view across the whole of the park as the hill drops off to the south and the east. So that's the logic.
That's all windows.
Public side. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that sets up with 7, you show 7 chairs there, so that's this 7. What about staff? Where do you envision them?
That's a really good question.
We'll sit on the side.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be part of the big show.
No, but we still should have it. So
It should be part of the audience, it should be organized somehow.
we should be showing that. I think that's a very good catch.
Well,
my next question.
touch on how many people that you set that up to see.
Say that
There's
again.
plenty of, we talked about how many you set that up to feet in terms of,
Oh, yes, in
Yeah.
terms of, I think we're showing
56.
55, 56, and you could easily get about 20 more, like if you wanted to pack it in, and so you probably have some extra chairs for, let's say a popular event, or you're gonna have somebody sworn in, and you don't want a lot of guests as opposed to like some controversial thing. Either way, it can hold a few more people, so there's some air in there. But to be honest, we should have shown that, so apologies for not having that on the plan. All right. So if we go to the right, then we also have the ability to leave and exit the building from this side, as well as down the stair, as well as out the front door. So we're good for those operations. So if you came up, a single point of reception, the ability to then welcome somebody back. And really, I think moving to a nice, what you see all throughout here is an open plan. really modern office concept, which is super flexible because you can always have a few more desks or a few less desks, and you don't have to, move walls or spend money on that one way or the other. But we have growth space, finance director, copy area, admin assistant, public works area, building inspector area. Again, over here where there's less view, we have some of our dead storage, and then along the whole of the south side with the views, conference room, manager's office, assistant manager, and then a break space so that everybody can, take advantage of, what's gonna be the better view of the spot.
So those two things at the right are storage.
Dead file storage, and then here's like a Zoom room. When we had the open space, we tried to have what we call in our office like a huddle room, where if you need to take a private call, or you want to get on like a virtual meeting that's gonna maybe be a little disruptive, you can hop in there, or the conference room, or the other conference room, and create the best of both worlds in an open office environment, without having doors and private offices in it. Stair kind of takes you down, as I mentioned. You can access, secure at the bottom for the police, but you could access the police with the right credential, or you can exit the building. That's really just a fire egress type of thing. We do have slope, from left to right across the front. Okay, so it's a really simple diagram. I do find architecturally, like, simple, elegant plans usually create more simple, elegant buildings. So we've started down that road a little bit as to how we think the architecture could make sense. Similar to what I mentioned earlier is, rather than show you like a fully developed rendering in hopes that you would love it, we like to take a little nibble and say, here's what we're thinking. What do you think of our thought? If we're on the right track, we continue, and if we're not, we course correct. So I just want to take a little bit of time talking about history. So, the bank barns and learnful tradition, here in Chester County and lots of parts of the Northeast. So we have a site that sets up, so the idea of that makes sense. We don't like to do like fake old kitschy, like you have a beautiful old carriage barn here. We don't want to do like a fake old carriage barn. We do something that's a little more forward thinking. But what do you take from that? How this sits with masonry, whether that's stone or concrete in the hill, and how that grounds the building. How even in this, a lot of the barns, or you think of the red barn as the traditional, but more often in this area, you have a relatively few of those and a lot more of these darker barns that kind of recede in a nice way to the landscape. And so we talk about how do those type of things translate into a more modern looking thing. So you have gable roofs that are very common to people and they look good. Building, and so we're thinking of this as something in that dark range, but then with a lot of timber. And so we talked about sustainable strategies. So doing a mass timber frame on top of, the police, which would be a concrete, and really sort of juxtaposing those two type things, keeping the geometries in this kind of very rural shapes. But then, if you think back, if you go back to like people think about colonial buildings, there's a reason all the windows were small with tiny little divided lights, and that was because that was as big as glass could be made back then without it breaking. It was not a design or stylistic element, it was a practical matter. So we have the ability now to have, somewhat bigger and let more daylight in, let more view be accessed. And so we see that kind of evolve that way. So these are just examples of how these things can turn into really elegant new things, but they feel comfortable in a place where people like an older environment. I think that particular is just, it's a very interesting thing. None of these are literal for what we're proposing, they're just informative of that. And then when we start down the road of like a concrete base, we can do something to really make it, board form concrete, or we could go traditional stone, are two interesting things, but again, it's like modern and very accessible and warm all at the same time. Okay. To be the building itself. So then I just talked just a little bit more about how the mass timber, in fact, I want to hop right to some of these where you can see how the space on the inside can be very elegant and simple when you just say, hey, we're just going to have the wood be a great element. And then in an office environment, this is very similar to that open concept that we have, and would be quite nice, very sustainable. I think we're being very mindful of the sustainability goals that you have, and it's a great, there's one local mass timber building that's been built down in Town Square, in the preserve. But that's a thing that's more and more, and we're involved in several as we speak. So we've done in municipal bid projects, we've done a lot of glue lamp and projects like that. All right, so how that starts to translate, so these are just, you know, if you see the sausages, maybe just start with early hand sketches and how that could sort of translate. If you're looking from the front, you can see an entrance on the left, an elegant timber porch running across the front, and then the gables. And then one that we like a little bit more, which brings this gable forward as the entrance, but you think an open office here, back of the house there, the meeting room on the far side looking down. And this is just kind of where we are at the moment, and wanted to get like a sniff test. If you feel like this is something that would sit, I feel like from down the hill looking up, it could be pretty nice.
And the little windows are the ones that open there.
Oh, these little guys? Up
No,
here,
no,
you mean?
no, the ones that like below, is that?
Oh, these, yeah, that's, I mean, that's a window wall, you know, so big glass, could be operable, could not be operable, that's a. It's a. What would you say? They each, controlling the environment all the time is the most energy efficient thing to do. But if you wanted to have operable, then what you have is these like vertical panels would be like casement operable, and then you could do that, so you just have to. You have to manage it, is because if you have windows open and you're running your systems, even if they're efficient, you start to cross circuit yourself, particularly with humidity. So mostly, typically, police buildings not. We do show some high windows up here in the gable, see these little guys? They would shine into the middle of the space, where that work environment's further back in, just to make that like just a nice daylit space.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Where's the south face?
South is the opposite side. This is basically, so if you look.
So it would get sun directly in.
Yes, so your downhill side is the sunniest side, so your uphill side is north exposure, which means you get a lot of beautiful light without glare. So what the side we were looking at was from the parking here, and then the downhill side, you know, is this. It's a perfect orientation to do as much solar as you would want to do. And for my money, you could do a vegetated roof, but you have lots of green to do nice stormwater strategies. I would sooner solar that up. I just, as of last August, went all solar and battery backup, and the accident that took out my transformer. My house was humming right along with the batteries, and it was quiet without the generator noise, so we got to kind of, I didn't enjoy that we needed it, but it was nice to go, okay, how does this work? So, it's sort of addictive to see when you're net negative energy, for me at least.
So there's a really important consideration on the back there. There's a hill there.
Yes.
That the kids sled down, and we preserving that hill.
Yes, we are well above the hill line,
Okay.
so that's all good, and my kids and I.
On top of the list.
Also, oh, take the list, yeah, it was, we were not good, so it's really where everything's on the flat area as you see it. Now, I will say that like technically over here, which is not a sledding area, that drops off and we would be flattening that a bit, but it's not what you're talking about. So, yeah.
Will the road onto the Newtown Road, will that be closed off? So nobody uses it unless the police want to use it, or?
I think in the like automatic gate is the most secure way to do that. And then there's next levels down, just to market, and I don't think we've settled, but I think we plan to carry the cost for the gates that would, that the police car would, as they would approach, they automatically go up. And only the police cars would have the sensor.
And no one else has access to that area, so there'll be no public access to it.
Yeah, I love that idea, because I've been here when the police can't get out because of the parking on the drop off on the Beaumont Road.
It'll probably have to be a gate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all the parent try to get through
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
I'm not in joking.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But you brought that up before, Michael. I mean, just look at, the existing township building, like that's the only access the police have to get onto the street. And it's right by Beaumont Elementary. If it's, 3 PM on a Friday, like, God help anybody trying to get out of here, it's impossible. So having that access on Newtown Road is
Yeah, huge.
fantastic.
And that safety on the other side too. You're not crossing pedestrians and getting involved in that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm excited.
The trails that you're extending them, like, is it all existing or is there?
I mean, everything you see here is existing, and then this is we reconnected up, and this is probably, we just finally got the topo survey. So like this probably will be a little more of a switchback because that's a steep drop there, so it would be, but the idea is just, you know, you have a little bit more trail to walk, but make a great connection here. If you end up doing this as a community type facility, having this with some sort of nice play area tied into this, you know, it sets up pretty well. You know, to do that.
Can we talk
Be able
about
to
that?
operate it without impacting that.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Sure.
So you're envisioning like a park space kind of on the south side of the existing building if we should, should choose to keep it. At what point do you need a decision from our team on what we're doing with the building, keeping it or refurbishing it or demolishing it and making a playground or something like that?
That's a good question. So no time soon, but as part of what you've engaged us to do, we're gonna want to kind of get this moving. We will set up time to meet with your designees to talk about how you might use that building, and then we owe you that as part of our scope. And including to go, here's what it could be, and here's how it would really change this building and not to a cost to renovate it a bit for that use versus here's what it would cost, you know, to remove it and just have it be an open outdoor space.
So I guess it's homework for our board as well, as we should make considerations for if we were to keep the building, what would we like to see it used for? Or would we rather be raised and have a playground or expanded park space? It looks like just from the, layout that you have there, we could do both. You have a playground, you're relocating it from the other spot to here. And then you have the existing township building that could be used as a rec center, senior center, or whatever it is. Maybe we could do both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident that that would work as an option, and you both could be, could exist well, and you have enough space.
One little item with this, the original plan that you approved that authorized all this, the playground was shown as retained. And this is showing the playground as relocated. Some of that reasoning is so the police are not egressing in the vicinity of a playground. That cost just for the playground wasn't included in the initial estimates that you looked at. Relocating the playground, the budget cost of that is around $750,000.
And that's if you redid it and it was much bigger. If you just relocated it, I think we were like 300-400. Am I reading that?
But presumably that would be, for some, that would be if you can't take a playground out to build a building. So, my sense would be you will have a decision to make there sooner rather than later. If you don't include the 750, then you're keeping the playground in the vicinity of the egress. If you decide to do it, you have to include enough money to demo the playground in its existing and then relocate it to the new location.
It's certainly something we should consider now because, I understand it's the added cost, but we've discussed for the last few years needing to renovate or replace the parks and park equipment as they are, specifically the playgrounds, and then with the added point of making sure that it's out of the way of the police. I think it does make a lot of sense. So there's efficiencies to doing it as part of this
And
project.
the building could last, it could be years. You could decide to keep the building and 4 years from now decide to do something with it. The decision to relocate the playground is in the next 60 days, 90 days, because presumably that's going to be included in the borrow. So it's going to elevate the borrow by around $750,000.
When was the last time we upgraded the Hilltop playground? When was the last time?
When it was built,
Yeah,
98.
probably 95 or so would be my guess. I don't know, John, you see anything?
No, I mean, so the equipment that you purchased in '98 was, the core components are lifetime guaranteed, so. We replaced the belts and the chains like you would on anything, but it is original to that, so. Like the wet sand glass, we replace that every couple of years because it gets little scratches on it, but.
I just figured it isn't something we invested in 10 years ago.
No, you've gotten 27 years out of it, that's not a bad run, and
And as I joke, the kids in the catalog look like they're having a lot of fun with the equipment that is different than it was 30 years ago. So there is new equipment out there.
Yeah, and we just did a similar project and we actually kept about half of the equipment. It was like still relevant and we moved it. And then we supplemented it with the latest, greatest other type things. So we would definitely assess that and see if.
I mean, this would do two of the things that you want the building and, you know, an upgrade to the playground in a manner that is very strong and powerful.
And or a rec center or annex to the library or something like that with the existing building as well.
And I think the amount of touch you'd have to do to this building to put it in that kind of use is not heavy, like it's not wholesale.
Right.
Yeah, I think we have to work on the mechanicals, which it was on your deferred maintenance list anyway, but it's not like a wholesale guy. Yes, sir.
A question, for the parking spaces for the new township building, is that the same number of parking spaces that are there now? Or is that less, or?
I think it's exactly the same. I don't think we looked at touching that, but I say that with some, I don't have a count for sure.
I might have lost 2 for the drive.
And we might even pick those up at the other end, but it's very near the same.
Yeah, cause they get filled up all the time whenever there's an event across the street, so.
And it's parking neutral. And just supposed to use.
And would we have to reach out to the family to get their buy-in on this?
We have been doing that. I've been in touch for the lawyers of the heirs of the original estate gift. And they are positive.
Okay.
What we've seen, we've talked about a lot of the things that you've talked about, that the recreational facilities stay intact, the sledding hill, playing field at the bottom. They're very interested in the preservation of Hilltop House, and John has helped me create, you sort of have an internal list of things that you have to do and things that you might do in coordination with the larger project. We gave the family that working list and they seem very pleased. And I think they all recognize, I mean, the Hilltop has always been sort of the historic preservation crown jewel. The barn was turned into this immediately, in order to create the township building. So my impression is they're a lot less concerned about this structure. But they also want to see everything we just heard, that it's sensitive to the land and it plays into the Chester County vernacular too. So far, I haven't heard any objections, and what they saw was very similar to the sheet that shows the new building with the barn, this administration building existing. The only difference being, as Don said, the potential playground was a little more contained. And there was some talk about maybe using the walls of either the existing building or the ruins to the south, so it was a little less deep, but they've essentially seen the same thing.
And we definitely would, the existing walls are here. We put a little gap in it to be able to just get a little more air. But this is completely gestural. We just literally took a playground from another project and went, okay, put it here, just, for scale.
I just want to make sure they were being kept up.
The only improvement that this also shows that's not like required is right now on the downside of Hilltop, there's a lot of asphalt there that maybe supports the police moving around. I'm not really sure why there's so much asphalt, but this sort of implies that we would make that a little more pedestrian friendly, maybe, sized it like a gator or so, those type of equipment could roll on it and it would maybe make that house a little more useful on the downhill side, but that's just sort of a gesture also.
Can the caterer use it that way? Like, do they park trucks back there?
Barely. So your at-grade entrance is the AP Henry's right through the middle, so they use it a little bit.
But not, okay, that wouldn't interfere with their use.
Yeah, generally, it's a place like that, you wouldn't want anything like that on the view side.
Right.
And more likely would want to spill the event out on that side.
Could I ask or offer, would there be any functional need to bring a vehicle from the new township building over to the Hilltop House, kind of internal through the site? Just, I'm not strongly proposing it, but just throwing it out there for the good of your thought process.
That's a good question. I mean, not off the top of my head, like right now you do have that internal drive that runs in front of Hilltop and creates that loop. And you certainly physically could connect it. I'm not sure that you would want traffic going through there. So then you'd probably sort of mark it off. But that would be something operational for you guys to think about.
Okay, so just a little snapshot for you, we're taking the feedback as positive, right? That seems to be the vibe. So the intent then is, we'll bring it through the historic commission. We'll bring it through the park and rec board because it has an impact on the park. We'll get feedback. We're not taking it then, we're not co-designing it. They're to give you recommendations. If there are things that they want, they'll speak to you, not to the architect sort of thing. So they'll do that formally through their review. And then you'll decide whether you want to engage the architect to do something different. And I'll also start a conversation with the residents on Newtown, just because they'll have a vested interest in it, all very casual. At this point, just to identify feedback. And then we'll be back to you in what will probably be a short number of months. Martin, John, anything to add to that? Does that sound pretty reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, I would only add, we will develop it based on the input we got, and if we have any follow-up, we'll hear about it, and the next time we come back, we'll have developed what you've seen just to a higher level of interest in detail.
But we're not gonna change it based upon the input of others. You might change it based upon the input of others. That'll be sort of a key distinction. They're making a recommendation to you, not to the architect to change it.
You talked about the neighbors on Newtown Road, also the next door neighbor, we're gonna keep them in the loop.
Over this side,
Sure, I'm not
yes,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
All good. So that's the idea. We'll try to talk to everybody who would be affected by it.
Okay, good.
And this has been sort of a look and feel exercise. You're not voting on anything today, but, and you've had some input, but I think you want to see if there's any public comment, since you're sort of moving the path with your architectural team into something a little more specific and out to your committees.
Is there any other public comment? All right, thanks so much.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity as always. Thank you. Thanks for everybody. We had a great team to work with. It's made it super, I think, easy and I think efficient.
Gonna be great. Thank you, Mark.
Great, thanks.
All right, moving on to the Route 30 corridor complete streets initiative study.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Colleen, will you just sort of take us through this one and what's what we're
Sure.
trying to do tonight?
So at the last planning commission meeting, Bowman and Tom Comita's team presented the alternatives that were for the Route 30 corridor study that were most popular with the general public. From the public workshop. In January, we had a meeting with PennDOT. PennDOT gave their input and suggested that we prepare a pedestrian safety study as part of this project. That study was not really a big ticketed item back when the grant was prepared and when we prepared this study altogether. Now PennDOT utilizes that study as part of their review, and it holds a heavy weight when considering the safety of pedestrians along, I guess, walkability and walkable streets and stuff like that. Since it wasn't a big ticketed item back then, it was not budgeted in the overall professional service agreement that was signed by you guys a couple years ago. So Randy from Bowman is here to give an overview of the need of the study and request additional money to complete it, if you guys are of interest.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Again, Randy Waltemeyer, project manager with Bowman. Just one thing I will slightly correct is what PennDOT requested is known as a predictive safety analysis. Slightly, I'm also doing a pedestrian safety audit, so on a different project, but for this one, so yes, to kind of give a little, so really, if I really get to the cut to the chase, we're looking for a $5,000 supplement to the Bowman contract to execute that predictive safety analysis, address some PennDOT comments, which included, they requested us to analyze an additional alternative that came out of the meeting. Again, a little bit of that timeline, we had a very constructive meeting in mid-January. They requested, and they went right on the record and said, we really think you should do a predictive safety analysis. It's becoming customary with all the alternative analyses they are doing for other projects. And really, they said, one of the things as we looked at grant funding, they said, it behooves the township to do that, because in the event you're looking for grant funding down the road, the fact that you've done a predictive safety analysis that would show the alternative you're advancing is presumably the most safe, it would qualify you and make you eligible for safety funding. We provided technical comments back to PennDOT. They responded the last week of February. We had a very productive discussion with the Planning Commission the first week of March. And really, as we sat down with the Planning Commission, even they kind of really echoed back and said, well, kind of like if your parents give you strong advice, kind of the same idea the Planning Commission said, well, Randy, if we're really hearing strongly that it would behoove us to do a predictive safety analysis, we feel that would be, of interest to the project. We were then tasked after the Planning Commission meeting to develop a budget for that extra effort. It comes to $8,500. We sat down with Colleen looking to find some efficiencies within our project budget. We were able to find about $3,500 in our project budget to absorb the first $3,500 of that $8,500. And so that's why what we're here before you is if you approved an advancement, would be a $5,000 supplement to the Bowman's existing contract to advance. Mostly that predictive safety analysis, but also addressing the other comments that PennDOT has made in our coordination.
Sounds very reasonable.
Based on the fact that the analysis would help us in the future, that would be important to have already done. We see that.
For grant funding, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I think just candidly, I think we're if this would be, we were scheduled to come to you actually this evening with a project update. With this, the coordination we have to do yet with PennDOT, I would estimate we could be back to you by your May meeting. Having done the safety analysis, given those results to PennDOT and coordinated accordingly, and be back to you by the May meeting with kind of what they've told us, and hopefully with a more concrete direction on how the alternatives are lining up. Yeah.
Any board comment?
You have sort of softer lines for like general sidewalk planning, things of that sort, so it would just presumably come from one of those lines.
Is there any public comment? So we're making a motion to approve the additional 5,000.
I think it's best to have a motion.
Okay. So make a motion to approve the additional 5,000 for the safety analysis. Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And John, will you take us through item 4E?
Sure, and I'm joined with Kate Ruth from the AC here tonight. We can add color if needed. The annoyance of municipal staffs everywhere. A lot of time grant processes don't fall easily within a municipal calendar. So this one came up. The deadline is right around the corner before the EAC would be able to meet on it and then bring it back to you. So it's a little preemptive how we normally like to process it. The gist of it is as the EAC is asking for permission to join with other agencies and submitting a joint proposal for the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation funding. Ruth or Kate can speak to some of the purposes of what they're looking for the funding for, but this is a no match grant opportunity that has a closing date right around the corner. So
What would it be?
a very short version of it. And then it's a capacity building grant, so they're looking to be able to expand their outreach through the Darby Creek Association. Which other groups, I'm sorry, were
Lower Merion Conservancy, Eastern Delaware County Stormwater Collaborative, Lower Merion Conservancy, Pennsylvania Resources and Council, and some others.
looking for a motion to hopefully pursue further funding for these efforts.
How much is the funding?
It ranges between 75,000 and 225,000, I believe is the rough bookmark.
So we don't request an amount, they tell us what they're gonna give us.
Well, so the grant is being prepared.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, the timeline is wonky with your municipal schedule, with everybody's municipal schedule. So not everything has been fully framed out by the joint application. But it will be East Town applying with the other agencies.
And again, I'm not sure what is the money gonna be used for.
The money would be. Do you want to speak for it?
Well, so the money would be used primarily for capacity building. It is a capacity building grant. So what they want to do is across the individual groups that are involved. One of the things that they want to do is hire a volunteer coordinator. Because all of us struggle with getting with recruiting and training and retaining volunteers. So that's one of the things that they want to do. And we certainly struggle with that, with trying to get volunteers and then keep them. Another thing that they want to do is provide times and resources for members of the group to get together to discuss their ongoing projects. We really have learned a great deal from some of the other organizations in terms of the projects that we've done, like the rain gardens, and with our downspout planners, we actually purchased them at cost from one of the other organizations. And we would have a great deal of difficulty reinventing the wheel, so to speak. And so we have profited greatly from their expertise over the past several years, and we would continue to do that. They're in the process of fleshing out the grant. As John said, it was a very short time frame. I think they got the initial call for proposals the beginning of February, and it's due March 26th. So fortunately, they have a great deal of expertise in pulling these kinds of grants together. And they have had a Growing Greener grant, which is about to expire, and they've been doing this similar kind of work. So they have a lot of expertise in the area.
Okay, so if I understand it, we are joining with another group, we're putting our name on the grant. It's gonna go through, if the money comes through, we don't have to contribute anything to it, and it's gonna do the things you just said. Okay, that sounds great. Now I understand.
Motion to approve the National Fish and Wildlife Federal Grant application.
Second. So any report comment? Any public comment? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to departmental reports. Don, I have one question, the one related to the audit as it relates to the credit rating, can you just?
Sure.
Go into that further?
So, your audit is late, that's, you're aware of that, and that's been publicly, stated many times. We're working on it as best we can. There are circumstances, not just really pragmatic, it's like the issue with the inability to get the auditor to, and then switching auditors.
Right.
So, the reporting requirements with your audit, they're monitored by S&P. S&P is the entity that gave you the rating. If you don't meet certain deadlines, and the deadline is early April, they withdraw the rating. You restore the rating, you have to restore the rating, go through that process anyway when you borrow. So, it's you know, what the consequences of that are, no one can say for sure. You know, presumably, somebody might know that the rating was withdrawn and decide that that affects their decision to buy bonds from you. But that is, you can't really quantify it. So we've identified with S&P Global what they need to not withdraw the rating. And we're targeting getting that to them in time. That this, you went through this last year, so I don't know if you remember. You know, we don't know, we don't control every aspect of this at this point. So we won't know for sure until probably 2 more weeks.
Don, is it worth bringing up with the consultant at Stifel, just to see if this would have any impact on the interest rate?
Yeah, that's who we've been talking to mostly. So,
Folks are aware.
I'm summarizing him. When he comes in April, you can talk to him about it. But that's the way he described it, that you can't quantify that because it's so abstract. It's certainly theoretically possible, and it's hard to imagine that you know, it's information's out there, and any institutional investor that wanted to use it. But when you go to bond, you'll have a rating, and the rating will be, you know, presumably AA plus. It's just you might not have it a few weeks before you until you reestablish it with S&P. I did want Colleen to share one item with you about omnibus. So Colleen, just generally, if it's okay, review that, what those changes are and why those are the changes.
Sure. So in my memo are a list of suggestions for omnibus update this year, all pertaining to stormwater management. You'll see they're all out of section 388 of the township code. Some are, one is just a typo, one is for more clarity on what in-kind versus replacement impervious, because that's that gets really confusing when people are doing projects. The first one, number 1, is about having your BMP or like your level spreader or your little riprap coming out of your seepage bed a minimum of 10 feet from your property line, just so it's very clear in the code, because some people design it to be closer and it causes issues with adjoining properties. Number 2 is about grading a minimum of 3 feet. You have to have a minimum of 3 feet between your property line and where you're grading, just because it blends in a little better. And when you start grading right up to your property line, again, it causes some issues with the adjoining properties. If it's not pretty level, you don't want it to cause a shelf or anything along those lines. Number 3 is just a typo in the code that we were just kind of correct. Item number 4 is just making it very clear across the board that your pre-construction calculations have to be match or be less than your post-construction. It gets a little confusing when you start pointing out specific watersheds and Plum Creek A and my Plum Creek B. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You have to have the same output, right? So number 5, it talks about oh yeah, it's the same. So you can't have a negative output or a negative runoff on your adjoining properties or anything along those lines. So a lot of these are clarification, revisions, and updates to the stormwater code. That one is already extremely confusing to me. My eyes go cross-eyed when you start talking stormwater. But when you're trying to explain it to a resident who has less knowledge on stormwater than I do, it is pretty difficult, because to them, impervious is just impervious. Why does it matter if it's asphalt versus concrete versus I'm taking it from here and I'm moving it over here, right? So it's just a little bit of clarity for homeowners and, you know, engineers, so you don't have to go back and forth with them, because we have had issues where, you know, it's a back and forth, but this is the interpretation.
they're all de minimis to me, meaning they're all the hyperdomain of the engineer, they came from Brady. And that's, and we're not looking to use omnibus to make policy changes, they're just sort of, that's the list of administrative changes, so.
Yeah.
If you have no issue, we'll initiate the process where they will come to you as through the formal process of, no change.
All right, thank you. Any other comments on the reports? Okay, moving on to, no regular business, so liaison work group reports, the Berlin Devon Business Association, I did speak with Tracy, they've been they haven't really been doing much, but she's really trying to get it going again, so I hope to hear more from them soon. Citizen Communication Advisory Board.
They met on March 2nd. I wasn't able to attend the meeting, but it looks like they're progressing with their communication survey. Looks like they're also doing a public relations case study on the summer camp.
Yeah, so they got a survey, they're proceeding with that, it makes great sense, and then the camp is like they're using it as like a training thing, not training, they're paying hyper attention to the communications on that as a tool to teach them how we're doing.
Okay.
They had a presentation on the idea of having an advisor. They're going to present their recommendation to us next month, I think, right? That's the plan. They went over the projects they're working on, so far so good, so that's about it.
Great. EMA?
EMA was talking about the bond reimbursables, how to make sure that was funded, capital items for 2026, a couple of new EDU requests, and new bid going out for a Pike TV contract. So I think the current one went bankrupt. The bid was way lower than all the other ones, so I guess they went out of business. So now there's a new one required, so that's going out soon.
I think they're saying they're retiring.
Great.
EAC?
EAC moves to
Finance work group?
I don't think we've met since our last meeting.
no, I don't think we have.
T Fire Commission?
We had our first meeting, so we've officially kicked off.
Congratulations.
Yes, the fire committee. I'm trying to find the minutes, but I can't find them. Nothing of note. I guess the thing of note was the attendance. There was huge attendance. Every meeting, mostly fire. We held it at the firehouse. So mostly actually all three firehouses were represented. They all in Berlin and Radnor. It was good.
Great. The HC met on the 12th. Mostly just project discussions, and really about the historic property survey and the discussion of the company they were going to go with. I think they were going to go and choose the ones they thought were best and submit them. And then, John, you have companies that you had recommended, so they were kind of going to be looking back and forth. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you had 15 applications for your RFP for the survey, which is about 3 times as many as I was expecting. Originally, we had hoped that they would be able, if it was 4 or 5 that applied, we'd turn them around and you have a recommendation tonight. Since you had a lot of interest, the expectation is at your next BOF meeting, there'll be a firm that they would like to recommend.
The library, I know that in the library there were some notes to look at, just some tidbits that Amber sent. So, and then at the meeting, they met on the 25th February. They talked about, so they had Corinne Wright from the gardening club. She was there as their guest. They spent time talking about the needs assessment, working with the 3 library boards. They spent 2 days working with the 3 library boards about the needs assessment. So they're very excited about that. the facilities committee met to discuss the needs for the library. They are having their Barbara Robinson event on the 24th of April, the state planning event on the 29th of April, and then the free shredding event is coming up for 11. There's a spring fundraiser on the 18th, which deals with the coins and currency. So that's the guy from Wayne coming in. They'll give the percentage to the library. There's discussion about library outreach and discussion of the fine per day of overdue books. Anything I missed here?
Yeah, no, that was great. Yes, the garden club, that Woodley Garden Club are those lovely volunteers, and they're going to be redesigning and refreshing the garden beds in front of the library. Just one cute thing from the community, 2 young neighbors of the library actually saw like a lot of trash, about a pound of trash outside the library grounds. And these kids picked it up, and you know, they weren't asked to do it and they did it. So we had members of the community beautify our grounds. So we just thought that was really great. And in the building, just wanted to add that the carpet in the adult stacks is going to be upgraded and in a large meeting room. And probably a lot of people have been hearing about these nonprofits not allowing passport acceptance facilities. And I think there might be some confusion out in the community, but because we're a municipal library, it's not an issue. So if you hear people concerned about the library not being able to do that, just confirm for them that we're not in trouble, which is a great thing because there are so few places now for people to get their passports that we really think that's quite a service that we provide to the community, you know, inside and outside of Easttown. So that's about it.
Great.
So thank you.
Great. Parks and Rec.
We meet tomorrow, but the Easter egg hunt or the spring egg hunt is, when is it?
Saturday.
Saturday. There you go.
Love it.
Coming up soon.
Pension work group.
Yeah, I haven't met since,
PC.
You see, had a couple of zoning issues, and then mostly they talked about the Route 30 thing and the alternatives that PennDOT was recommending, and PennDOT recommended an alternative to the alternatives.
Police work group.
I wasn't able to attend.
I don't think we've met.
The public works work group.
Also,
Yeah.
All right, and then stormwater management.
stormwater was MS4, current permit, future permit, imaginative permits, a lot of MS4 discussions. There was another thing that was brought up during the stormwater meeting was we didn't approve as part of our budget those like gate arms to kind of close off the street. So instead of funding projects to get the water out of the way, sometimes there's tons of water that comes in and then there's an automatic gate that closes, sends out text notifications and stuff. So we had not funded those. I think they were like 50 or 60 grand a pop, whatever it was, and there were 2 locations they had proposed. My suggestion would be after kind of the meeting was if we end up with additional capital funding that we did not budget for instance, EIT collections, because it's gonna be our first annual collection. If we have sufficient funding for it, I would say green lighting one of those or 2 of those, but we'll see how that goes in the next couple of months if we get additional funding. But I think something like that would be, you know, beneficial. That gives snacks to work on, progress to make. It's not just MS4, and it's something beneficial that I think was scrubbed out of the budget that we probably should have kept in. So future consideration.
Sucks. Is there any other public comment? Yeah, motion. Oh, exec session.
Yes, so we're gonna discuss matters of litigation in executive session.
Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So